Welcome to another That's What They Said, a podcast where we question the questionable lyrics of your favorite songs. Sarina Morales and Scott Spinelli talking about the man on Scott Spinelli's shirts. ODB, shimmy, shimmy, yeah. Shimmy it up, people. Because I just have to say that Old Dirty Bastard was never not on, Scott. Like, he was either asleep or he was running a marathon.
Yeah. He ran, I mean... I watched a documentary today. It was earlier today about it. This little like mini 15-minute thing they had. I guess Amazon. I guess last year was the 25-year anniversary of this album, and they put together a little thing for it. He's one of those rappers that, and I realize I'm starting off with a hot take right as usual. I'm not sure how we would feel about him if he didn't tragically pass, right? Like, as an example, if no one talks about the Jizza in the same way, the RZA, sure, but like Jizza, meaning other members of, no one talks about Inspector Deck because he's still around and relatively, sort of active, sort of not, you know what I mean? Like, and Inspector Deck is the guy, for those listening who don't really know, that's the guy who started he was in Wu-Tang. He has the first verse on Triumph. I bomb atomically, Socrates' philosophy. That whole verse is his. All I'm saying is that, like, the way they talk about him in this documentary is this very like, he was such an, all this stuff. And it's like, really? Or was he just kind of a weirdo who was talented? He was talented, but was he kind of just a weirdo? He was just a weird dude.
Yeah, he died November 13th, 2004, accidental drug overdose 2 days before his 36th birthday. But I was excited to do this one because you picked this one because you love Wu-Tang. You have made a playlist for me. ODB, we have covered him before on the Fantasy Remix song where he makes an appearance, a strong appearance, if you will. But yeah, I mean, 90s hip hop to me cannot not be discussed without talking about Wu-Tang. And yeah, ODB kind of makes it. He is like the weird uncle that he shows up, but you can't not ignore, like, oh, Uncle Pete, you're in the house. Let's go.
Oh, and furthering the analogy, like, everyone's always a little on edge with Uncle Pete. Like, is he going to bring up politics? Like, that kind of stuff. You don't quite know, but you want him there because more often than not, Uncle Pete is funny. And Uncle Pete is the one who's going to bring like that homemade hot sauce. But like, will you get sick from eating this hot sauce? The last 3 or 4 Thanksgivings, you haven't, but that doesn't mean you won't this next time. You know what I mean? Like, he's a wild card, Uncle Pete. And that's kind of what Ason Unique, Dirt McGirt, whatever nickname moniker he was going by at the time, was. And I just think that, like, it's just interesting when you listen to him, it's like, yeah, he's simultaneously like a really good lyricist and also a insane lyricist, as we'll get to in this song.
Yes. The album that this song was on, 36 Chambers,
Return to the 36.
Excuse me, I've been just cutting this title short. Received enormous praise. Like, I don't know if on the documentary, I mean, people were praising when I went back and read about the background of the song more. I mean, one of the most influential albums of the 90s, like one of the best hip hop albums of all time. But I would love to get your perspective on that.
I found that a little hard. It's funny. So I was mentioning to you, I went back and listened before we started taping. I went back and listened to it again today, and it's good. I admittedly, like, it's not. It's a little too weird for my tastes. Like, there's certain things that are really good. Like the singles are great. Shimmy Shimmy Ya is great. Brooklyn Zoo is also very good. There's a couple other really good songs on there. Baby Come On's a good song. Like, there's a number of songs that are like really good, but it's almost like, I guess when you like, okay, so I listen to it the way albums are supposed to. I'm a big album believer.
Yes.
I don't know if you like, I believe you should listen to it from start to finish the way they made it.
Yes.
And so I think when you do that with this album, it's honestly hard to, like, if I was walking around my apartment, it's hard to tell where each song starts and ends because sometimes, like, here's an example. Okay, you want me to sum it up for you? I'll sum it up for you this way. There is a track wherein in the middle, I believe it's in the middle, but either way, it's a piece of a song where they brought in his wife to have an argument with him, and that's on there. And then in the middle of the argument, she's screaming at him. He starts singing Somewhere Over the Rainbow. You know what I mean? Like, is that brilliant or is that insane? I mean, I'm not sure really, because again, this is what, like, to your point, like everyone raved about it then, and he was alive then, so it wasn't like it's some sort of posthumous thing.
I wonder.
But like in this documentary, like RZA was talking about how genius that was, and I'm like, is that? I'm not saying it's not genius. It's just like, is that really genius? I don't know. You know?
Yeah. Well, RZA was his boy. Helped produce the song too.
Oh yeah.
So he's not. He's gonna be like, it's genius. Well, more you appreciate what you don't do, right? RZA was.
That's very true.
More on the straight and narrow. Like,
sure.
was a lyricist, a genius in his own right. But you're just kind of like, I cannot, like Picasso and an artist that I'm trying to think of.
Yeah, let's hear where you're gonna go here. Some painting analogies, right in the wheelhouse for Sarina. She's a big Cubist fan. Loves modern art. Anyway, I'll pick up that one. Woof.
I thought you're like, please stop right there. Oh my gosh. I'm gonna start crying.
You want to bring up any
splatters paint on a
Jackson
canvas
Pollock? Jackson Pollock
versus someone who is painting a realistic scene.
Sure.
Is what I was going for.
Yeah.
It's kind of like a RZA versus ODB.
I think to stay away from the painting metaphors any further, I do think that I would imagine that the guys in Wu-Tang, all 375,000 of them, would agree that like there was just something that he had and brought to the group that the rest of them didn't. Like they all were good and did their own things and each one sounded a little different or brought this skill or that skill, but he was like you could argue that like a couple of them were kind of similar, let's say, right? Whereas he did was unique in a way, was totally unique. And they did talk about in the documentary where like that was his thing. He truly believed he was a like unique individual. And to his credit, I'm not sure there's not many people I would like, oh, that guy reminds me of ODB. Like nobody that's come out since, I would say, feels at all like him.
No, that I agree with you.
Like loose cannons, weirdos, unfortunately have trouble with that, substance abuse.
Yeah.
Interesting rhyming styles, part of big groups, very good, contributors to sort of R&B songs like he did with the Fantasy, but also with what was the other one? The Bullworth soundtrack. With Ghetto Superstar.
I was like with Maya. Yeah.
Yeah. I gave the least helpful hint on earth that it was on the Bullworth soundtrack. Maya. I actually, funny, we'll get to, I promise you folks, we'll get to this song eventually. But I don't think he was even supposed to be on that song. I think I had read or heard somewhere that like he was just in the area, perhaps directly in like recording session somewhere. They've got a bunch of studios in these places.
Yeah.
And they were like, would you want to come on? I think that's the story. I'm not 100% sure, but there's something to that where like he got involved in a non-intentional way to start. And obviously, I mean, he's the best part of that song, but
his life is very interesting to say the least.
Absolutely.
A Denver Nug. I mean, this song, if you don't know this song, you would know it because you need to play 2 piano keys to really get into it.
Yeah.
The C and the B. And just a very ding, 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 bing, ding, ding, ding. It was featured on like the 8th Mile soundtrack. Like it was in.
Hold on, did you just call it, by the way, the 8th Mile soundtrack?
I did. 8 Mile. The movie.
The sequel to the Green Mile, the 8th Mile.
Eminem stars, Bad, which I appreciated. I'm moving on.
I'm not. Eminem stars in a sequel, the 9th Mile. The 8th Mile. Just 2 letters off, and it's so much funnier.
This is one of those songs too that I would like to put, like, if you had a soundtrack of your life, and this would be a song at some point in my life, maybe part of my life right now, just chaos, where you're just like, you're just kind of going through the motions, like, okay.
And the part, or like you're getting ready for a party type thing.
Yeah.
It feels like it works in that regard too.
Multiple uses of this.
Yeah. Yeah, either your life is spiraling out of control or you're getting ready for a good night, either or, which could
You're
lead.
either preparing to spiral or
Yes.
you've already.
Yeah, you haven't yet. Yeah. At one point, it's gonna, it's gonna get to you. So, anyway.
Shimmy Shimmy Ya, second single on Old Dirty Bastards. Return of the 36 Chambers came out in 95. It was produced by RZA as well as ODB. Hit 62 on the US Billboard Hot 100, and it was on it for 15 weeks.
One little note that I had, my last little nug before we get into the lyrics, which is also an interesting thing just about the lyrics in general, is this song was apparently recorded before he actually had a record deal. Yeah, that was one thing they said in the documentary, that like they were working on this song before he even had signed his deal, which is usually the opposite of what happens, obviously, because it's, you wait to get into the studio, and he was like, they were apparently working on it beforehand. So
thinking about the lyrics of this song and how this song goes, I believe that.
Yeah.
I'm like, you want to just hop on the mic and see what comes out? Okay.
Well, okay, so here, let's start with the obvious, right? Which is the first thing you pretty much hear, which is, "Ooh, baby, I like it raw." Okay. Now, unless he is a huge fan of sushi, there is a high likelihood that this is about intercourse without birth control. Correct? Right. That's what this is about. I doubt very seriously that ODB loved sashimi, and so
I mean, who doesn't?
Yeah, I mean, sashimi is tasty as fuck, but to that point, apparently Elektra was so concerned about. Did you see this?
Yeah, go for it.
Yeah, that Elektra was so. That's the record company that put the album out. They were so concerned about the messaging of the "Ooh, baby, I like it raw" that they made him record, and I don't think it ever got released, but a safe sex, like birth control PSA.
Because imagine that PSA coming out of his mouth.
Unbelievable.
I like sex, and you should be safe.
Yeah,
and I still like it raw. Like
I recommend to anyone who finds this even remotely interesting, go to the genius.com, the lyrics, and when you see the annotation for this first line, they have it linked. You can find it on YouTube, the never aired, and he's laughing so hard he can't even get through it. Like it's 2 minutes of him. At one point, he just repeats the word birth control like 7 times. He literally just says like birth control, 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 birth control. So,
also on the Genius lyrics, I don't know if you saw this, but like in an interview with Howard Stern, he said that raw was like war backwards.
Yeah, I didn't.
Like he had an outlook on life of peace. What?
Yeah, I didn't buy. I mean, I heard
don't buy that at all.
I that reminds, when I saw that reminded me of, like, in like high school English, right? You had to read some book and they'd be like, why were his shoes red? And you're like, maybe because the author fucking likes the color red. Like, I don't think, like, we've all written things. Not everything has everything has a symbolic meaning, right? There's just no way. Some are just details, like I'm.
You just wanted people to know. So in case you wanted to have intercourse with him, you now know.
One option.
That's it.
It's not going to be involved.
Like, how did you not know? Baby, let me play this track for you really quickly.
Man never bought condoms. Just didn't need them.
No, didn't use them. We can keep going. I mean, it's the same. It's also the same.
Okay. So that's the next bit. Okay. So I had never really listened to this song that closely because for me, it's been like a party type song. Yeah. So I actually, honest to God, I thought that the version I had on my computer was
messed up.
It was a messed up version of the song. Because I had probably downloaded it illegally, 15 years ago, 20 years ago, and it's still on my computer. Yeah, honestly. And, it was some like BS version that like just didn't have the second or third verse. Because I was like, well, here's what I recollect from this song. It is first verse, second verse is just like garbled backwards.
Right, it's the backwards thing, right.
Which I thought must have been a mistake. And then the third verse is just the first verse again. And it turns out, not a mistake. That's exactly what it is.
Was what? So yeah, that's where I believe that this song was recorded before the album, and they're like, throw it on there.
Yeah, but I do have one more lyric. I will say. Do you have another lyric?
Yeah, I mean, I've got like bits. These are crumbles.
I got a full lyric. I got a full one.
Please.
So he says, excuse me. He says, for any MC in any 52 states, I get psycho killer Norman Bates. Now, I love the lyric, you know, psycho killer Norman Bates. And actually, Kanye West samples that line, that psycho killer Norman Bates, on a unreleased song that's very good. And I don't remember the name of it, but it'll be playing underneath me right now because I'll edit it to put it back in. But the point that I was making is, in the Genius annotation, they go, well, when he was going to school, they said that people, that's how it was taught. I'm like, I don't think that was the case. There was never 52 states.
No.
I'm assuming he's referring to DC and Puerto Rico, right? Puerto Rico is a
territory. I don't even know if most Puerto Ricans, and I'm a half-breed, want to be a state. So I was like, thanks, but no thanks. I don't know if you really want.
And DC was never in debate. I mean, I know they're talking about that relatively now. That's come up a little bit, but like DC was never a state. So like
ODB wasn't really paying attention in geography, like, or history. Let's be real, you know. But I was like, fair. I wrote that down too. I'm like, for any MC in any 52 states, I'm like, I went back and I was like, did I miss something? Like, well, because this got aired and produced, and people paid for that. I was like, maybe I'm crazy. I swear we still have 50. Like, you check yourself, Sarina Morales.
Yeah, honestly. I mean, I wasn't sure either. I had to go look it up. And because I was thinking, like, you know, when someone's like weirdly confident with you about something that you're like, that right can't be right. That's right what I was like, I'm certain there's 50, but why would this be on a song? You know what I mean? Like,
so many people definitely believe there were 52 states when they heard this song. They were like, nah. Listen to Shimmy Shimmy Ya. He says 52. Must be right.
And it's also a good example of from the episode we did, it was either a week or two ago, about you know, how, like, I was talking about how Eminem can rhyme anything.
Yes.
Similarly, it's all about like what's the word I'm looking for? It's all about like syllables and stuff, right? And so for any MC in any 50 states, like at 52, you kind of need 52, then 50. Right. You like you'd have to 50. You'd have to like say it longer. Like it fits better in the cadence with 52.
You're right.
But it's also inaccurate. It's just also blatantly
up a lot of children in the 90s who were
blatantly like, wrong.
I checked myself in 2023 to make sure I didn't miss anything or forget my education. Yeah, no, you know, now chop that down, pass it all around. I was like, cool, weed, love that. Quick to it. I mean, the lyrics were also just like, bop, I got one thought, I hit it, I move on. Next, lyrics get hard, quick cement on to the ground. I'm like, yep, hard cement, boom, okay, moving on. Like, it was so just, I got a thought. Here's the extra line, move on.
To that point, Wu-Tang sort of started out by, so RZA and ODB are second cousins. And they're like that whole, they started out as like sort of battling people, right? And going like traveling to battle people. And that's kind of what this sounds like, right? Where it's like each line is its own song.
It's old school hip hop that's just more like battle.
There's no continuity. Yeah, there's no continuity within the whole song.
This is not a story to tell about. This is his free flowing mind on who knows what.
Yeah.
But he is on in Shimmy Shimmy Ya.
One of my favorite things that he does is sort of the way he does it in the Baby Come On video too, where it's at the end of the video for this, where that's what bleeds into the second song, where he dances to his lyrics. Did you notice that? Like the way he does this hand motions that like cut as almost like it's hard to explain. And I'm not doing a good job of it for anyone who's watching this, obviously, but like he looks weirdly cool. It's like this, frankly, like it almost looks like a muscle spasm, you know what I mean? But it's like a beautiful muscle spasm, if that makes sense. It's hard to explain, but it looks good.
You don't
Cool.
question a guy who's that confident with himself. You just don't.
Oh no.
I think that's what the key to like life is. Like,
Listen, you put your album cover as your food stamp application,
yes.
or your food stamp, not applicant, your food stamp card rather.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
Yeah, that's confidence.
Absolutely. The music video quickly is like disco theme, but the
Yeah.
one part that I just like laughed at, like this dude just showed up in boxers at one point. Like we were like on roller skates and disco, and like the 70s disco vibe was very much you show up like to impress. You show up
Not him.
all out. And then this guy's like, I'm wearing boxers.
Yes. I mean, it was like that in what was the song? Baby, I Got Your Money. I think that video was similar too, where it's just like this guy was a loose cannon. I mean, in the Mariah Carey video, it starts with him tying the clown to a telephone pole. Like that didn't need to happen. Clown didn't do anything to him.
No. But it is it's a great song. It doesn't, I mean, if you miss the first part of the song, you just could keep listening to it and he'll remind you. I mean, that's the most fascinating part about this song is it is a track that hit the Billboard 100. Like we talk about Billboard charts and how one song made it. This song literally is the same song twice in a song. And part of the song is rewound backwards. Yeah. And it's still the lyrics I'm like,
it's amazing they got away with that. And also there is a longer version that's out there that you can get a second verse, but it's never played anywhere. It's not a part of any, like you never hear that verse. I would suspect unless you're a big fan, you've probably never heard that verse. So yeah, you're right. I mean, it's interesting that people were okay with that. And especially he's also a rapper. It's not like he's
this is your job to write lyrics.
Well, what I mean is he's not like some like LMFAO, like where they like talk, sing, you know what I mean? Like that kind of thing. Like this guy came from a lyrical background and his group is lyrical, and like yet somehow his probably the biggest single of his career is one verse.
That's what I mean. Like you have the ability to write as much as you want. And he chose the opposite of that.
Yes. Ason unique. I mean, what can you say? That's it.
Shimmy, shimmy, y'all. We're going to shimmy out of here. That's another episode. That's what they said. For Sarina and Scott Spinelli, we'll catch you on another time.
It is a good, it's a good reminder to, oh God, that might've been a problem. I hope not. I cut some hot peppers.
I have done that before. It's painful.
We're gonna squint through this one. Let's do it.
Like straight ate chilies with like guacamole, like with my hands, and then rubbed my eyes, and I was like, oh boy.
Someone's gonna watch us like, was Scott high during that? Why is he squinting the whole time?